There comes a moment when a woman stops carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Not out of bitterness, not from exhaustion alone, but from something far more sovereign. She simply stops caring about what was never truly hers to hold. What happens in that silence? What emerges when the need for approval dies and something ancient within her finally breathes? This is not about becoming cold. This is about becoming whole. In the pages ahead, you will discover why the act of no longer caring is not abandonment, but reclamation. You will see how Carl Jung understood this process as essential to psychological maturity, how the breaking of old patterns creates space for the true self to emerge. And you will recognize, perhaps for the first time, that your exhaustion has been pointing you toward liberation all along. We are about to enter territory that society fears, the space where a woman belongs fully to herself. Let us walk there together, slowly, with eyes open. You have spent decades as the keeper of everyone else's peace, the one who smooths over conflict, who absorbs the emotional turbulence of those around you, who translates pain into something bearable for others while swallowing your own. You learned this early. Perhaps you watched your mother do it, and her mother before her. The lineage of women who give and give until their hands are empty and their hearts are silent. But what if I told you that this pattern is not love? What if the very thing you have called devotion is actually a wound dressed in virtue? Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to meet the expectations of the world. For many women, this mask is woven from threads of endless care, tireless service, and selfless sacrifice. You become so identified with this role that you forget there is a face beneath it. You forget there is a woman who exists beyond what she does for others. The persona becomes prison, and the prison feels like home because you have lived there so long. Consider the archetype of the queen, not the queen who sits on a throne bestowed by others, but the sovereign who reigns over her own inner kingdom. Somewhere along the way, this archetype became inverted. The queen was taught to serve instead of rule. She was told that her crown was contingent upon approval, that her throne was only as stable as the comfort she provided to everyone around her. And so she became a queen in name only, begging for validation from subjects who never saw her as royalty at all. When you stop caring, you are not abandoning your capacity for love. You are abandoning the lie that your worth is measured by how much you can endure. You are stepping away from the belief that goodness means martyrdom, that strength means silence in the face of your own suffering. This is the paradox Jung understood deeply. The more you care about everything outside yourself, the less you belong to your own life. The more you attempt to hold the emotional world of others, the more you lose your grip on your own ground. But society punishes this awakening. When a woman stops performing the role of eternal nurturer, she is called selfish. When she no longer absorbs the emotional chaos of those around her, she is accused of being hard, cold, unfeeling. This is because her transformation threatens the structure that has relied upon her depletion. The system does not want sovereign women. It wants women who will continue to pour from an empty cup, who will smile while they disappear. What happens when you refuse? What happens when you look at the weight you have been carrying and realize it was never yours to begin with? The world does not end, but something in you is reborn. You begin to notice the pattern, the compulsive need to fix, to soothe, to rescue. Jung described the maternal complex in its devouring form, the great mother who consumes rather than nurtures. This is not about biological motherhood. This is about the psychic structure that demands you become the eternal caretaker, the one who sacrifices her own needs for the perceived needs of everyone else. It is the voice that whispers you are only valuable if you are useful, only lovable if you are accommodating, only worthy if you are in service. This complex runs deep. It is ancestral. Your grandmother carried it. Your mother embodied it. And now it lives in you. A silent script written in the body before you ever had words to name it. These women were not weak. They were shaped by forces they could not see, conditioned by a world that demanded their self-erasure in exchange for belonging. They did what they had to do to survive. But survival is not the same as thriving, and what was necessary for them does not have to be your inheritance. Beneath the compulsion to care lies a shadow. Jung taught that the shadow contains everything we have rejected, repressed, or denied in ourselves. For the woman who has spent her life being good, being kind, being endlessly patient, the shadow holds a reservoir of rage, decades of unacknowledged anger, frozen in the body, waiting. This is not the hot anger that erupts and dissipates. This is the cold anger that calcifies, that turns into resentment, that slowly poisons the well from which you have been drawing. You feel it sometimes. A flash of bitterness when someone expects you to give yet again. A wave of exhaustion that has nothing to do with physical tiredness and everything to do with emotional depletion. A quiet voice inside that whispers, "I cannot do this anymore." That voice is not your enemy. It is your ally. It is the part of you that still remembers you are not merely a function. You are a person. You are a soul. You are more than what you do for others. The body knows this before the mind does. You may find yourself inexplicably tired, chronically ill, unable to muster the energy you once had. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Your body is refusing to continue a pattern that your psyche has not yet been able to name. Jung understood the psychosomatic nature of unprocessed emotion. When the soul cannot speak, the body will scream. Your exhaustion is not a failure. It is a message. It is time to stop. There is a difference between compassion and codependency. Compassion is the ability to witness the suffering of another without losing yourself in it. Codependency is the compulsion to take on that suffering as if it were your own, to believe that you are responsible for fixing what is broken in someone else. Compassion creates connection. Codependency creates entanglement. One honors boundaries, the other erases them. When you stop caring in the way you once did, you are not losing your capacity for empathy. You are reclaiming your discernment. You are learning to ask the question Jung asked throughout his life. What is mine to carry, and what belongs to another? This question is an act of self-respect. It is the beginning of sovereignty. It is the moment the queen stops serving and starts reigning. And it is terrifying, because everything in you has been trained to equate self-care with selfishness, to believe that setting boundaries is the same as being cruel. But consider this: if you burn out completely, who benefits? If you disappear into the needs of others, who is left to tend to your own soul? The answer is no one. And that is the hidden cost of the caregiving compulsion. It does not just exhaust you, it erases you. The breaking point arrives not as a dramatic collapse, but as a quiet realization. You are sitting in a room full of people you have loved, served, and supported, and you feel utterly alone. You have given everything, and still it is not enough. Still they want more. Still they expect you to be available, to be understanding, to be the one who holds it all together. And in that moment, something shifts. You see clearly, perhaps for the first time, that this dynamic will never change unless you change it. That no amount of giving will ever fill the emptiness inside those who do not know how to nourish themselves. That you have been trying to heal wounds that are not yours to heal. Jung called this process individuatio, the journey toward becoming who you truly are, separate from the roles you have played, the masks you have worn, the expectations others have placed upon you. Individuation is not a destination. It is a practice. It is the daily choice to honor your own truth, even when it disappoints those around you. It is the willingness to be misunderstood, to be judged, to be called selfish by people who benefited from your self-neglect. This is the great paradox of awakening. To the person who is still asleep, your liberation looks like betrayal. To the one who relied on your depletion, your wholeness feels like abandonment. But you are not responsible for their discomfort. You are responsible for your own integrity. And integrity, at its root, means wholeness. It means no longer splitting yourself into pieces to fit the needs of others. It means allowing yourself to be fully present in your own life, even if that presence is too much for some people to bear. The persona begins to crack. The mask of the endlessly patient woman, the always available woman, the woman who never says no, starts to fall away. And beneath it, something raw and real emerges. You do not know who this woman is at first. She is unfamiliar. She has edges. She has needs. She has a voice that does not apologize for existing. And she terrifies you because she is everything you were taught not to be. But she is also everything you have always been, buried beneath layers of conditioning and compromise. She is the girl who knew her own mind before she was taught to doubt it. She is the woman who could feel her own desires before she learned to prioritize everyone else's. She is the sovereign self, the true face behind the mask. And she has been waiting for you to come back to her. There is a loneliness in this process that is both painful and sacred. As you step into your truth, you may find that relationships begin to shift. Some will deepen, revealing themselves to be grounded in genuine love and mutual respect. Others will dissolve, exposing the transactional nature that was always there. You were valued not for who you are, but for what you provided, the service you offered, the role you played. And when you stop performing that role, there is nothing left to hold the connection together. This is grief, the death of relationships that were never truly alive, the ending of bonds that were built on function rather than affection. It hurts, but it also clears space. Space for relationships that honor your wholeness. Space for people who see you, not just what you can do for them. Space for solitude that feels like rest rather than punishment. Jung spoke of the Nigredo, the blackening, the phase of alchemical transformation where everything must be broken down before it can be rebuilt. This is your Nigredo, the dark night where old identities die and the new self has not yet fully formed. You are in the space between, and it is uncomfortable, but it is also fertile. In the darkness, seeds are planted. In the silence, something essential is taking root. You begin to reclaim your energy. Not the frantic energy of doing, fixing, managing, but the deep energy of being. The life force that was scattered across 1,000 obligations, 1,000 people, 1,000 tasks that were never truly yours to complete. You pull it back, you gather yourself, and for the first time in perhaps decades, you feel present in your own body. You feel the ground beneath your feet. You feel the breath moving through your lungs. You are here, fully here, and it is enough. This is not about becoming indifferent to the suffering of others. It is about recognizing that you cannot carry the weight of the world without crushing your own soul. It is about understanding that true compassion begins with self-compassion, that you cannot pour from an empty vessel, that loving others requires first loving yourself enough to maintain your own boundaries and honor your own limits. When you stop caring in the compulsive way, you become capable of caring in a conscious way. You can offer presence without losing yourself. You can witness pain without absorbing it. You can support without rescuing. You can love without diminishing. This is the care of the sovereign, the queen who knows that her throne is not built on the backs of others, but on the solid ground of her own self-respect. And something remarkable happens. People begin to respond to you differently. Those who were drawn to your weakness start to fall away. Those who resonate with your strength start to appear. You are no longer a magnet for dysfunction because you are no longer participating in it. You are no longer available for drama because you have chosen peace. You are no longer negotiating your worth because you have claimed it once and for all. There is a particular moment in this transformation that Jung would recognize immediately. It is the moment when the opposites begin to unite within you. The part of you that has always been soft learns to stand firm. The part of you that has been endlessly giving learns to receive. The part of you that has feared conflict learns to speak truth without violence. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about integrating all the fragmented pieces you have carried in separation. The tender and the fierce, the vulnerable and the impenetrable, the open heart and the clear boundary. Jung called this process the union of opposites, the conjunctio, the sacred marriage within the self. For so long you may have believed you had to choose, be kind or be strong, be loving or be protected, be available or be whole. But these are false binaries created by a world that benefits from your internal splitting. The truth is that you can be all of these things at once. You can have a heart that feels deeply and a spine that will not bend. You can offer tenderness and refuse manipulation. You can be profoundly compassionate and utterly uncompromising about what you will no longer tolerate. This integration creates a new frequency. You are no longer operating from fragmentation, from the constant internal war between what you want and what you think you should do. You are aligned. Your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, all moving in the same direction. And this alignment is felt by everyone around you. You do not have to announce your transformation. It radiates from you. It is in the way you hold yourself, the way you speak, the way you no longer rush to fill uncomfortable silences or smooth over tensions that are not yours to resolve. The manipulator senses this immediately. The person who once could guilt you into compliance finds that their tactics no longer work. The one who could make you doubt yourself discovers that you have found your center, and it cannot be shaken by external opinion. They may try harder at first, escalating their demands, their accusations, their attempts to pull you back into the old pattern. But you remain still, not because you are fighting them, because you are finally at peace with yourself. And from that peace, nothing can move you. Jung spoke of synchronicity, the meaningful coincidences that arise when you align with your true nature. When you vibrate at the frequency of your authentic self, the universe responds. Opportunities appear, connections form, resources flow. Not because you are chasing them, but because you are no longer blocking them with patterns of self-abandonment and people-pleasing. You are open, you are clear, you are home in yourself. And from that place, everything changes. But before this clarity arrives, there is shadow work to be done. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is not your enemy. It is the repository of everything you have deemed unacceptable about yourself. For the woman who has played the role of eternal caretaker, the shadow holds rage, selfishness, desire, and ambition. All the qualities you were taught were unbecoming, unfeminine, dangerous. These parts of you did not disappear because you rejected them. They went underground. They festered. They leaked out in passive aggression, in sudden outbursts, in unexplained resentment toward the very people you were trying so hard to love. To integrate the shadow is to turn toward these rejected parts with curiosity instead of judgment. What would happen if you allowed yourself to be angry without shame? What would happen if you admitted that sometimes you do not want to help, you do not want to listen, you do not want to be the strong one everyone leans on? What if your so-called selfishness is actually self-preservation? What if your desire to withdraw is not coldness but wisdom? The shadow integration is not comfortable. It requires you to see the ways you have participated in your own diminishment, to acknowledge that you taught people how to treat you, that you accepted crumbs and called it love, that you stayed in situations that slowly eroded your spirit because you feared being alone more than you feared being lost. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about taking responsibility for your part in the pattern so that you can finally change it. And as you do this work, as you bring light to the dark corners of your psyche, something extraordinary happens. The parts of you that you feared were monstrous reveal themselves as simply human. Your anger is not destructive. It is information. Your selfishness is not cruelty. It is boundary. Your withdrawal is not abandonment. It is return. You are not becoming a worse person by integrating your shadow. You are becoming a whole one. The child within you begins to awaken. Not the wounded child who needs constant reassurance, but the free child who knew how to play, how to dream, how to say no without guilt and yes without fear. This child was not broken. She was buried, covered over by years of conditioning that taught her to be good instead of real, to be liked instead of honest, to be safe instead of alive. But she is still there, and she is ready to come out. This integration is the heart of Jung's work, the conscious adult and the instinctual child learning to inhabit the same body, the same life. The wisdom of experience meeting the spontaneity of innocence, the structured mind embracing the wild heart. You become both grounded and free, both responsible and playful, both strong and soft. You are no longer split. You are whole. And from that wholeness, you step into a new kind of authority. Not the authority that demands obedience, but the authority that commands respect simply by existing in integrity. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to justify your choices. You do not need to explain yourself to people who are not willing to understand. You simply are. And that is enough. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the self with a capital S. Not the ego, which is concerned with image and approval, but the self, which is the totality of who you are. The self does not negotiate. It does not compromise its essence for acceptance. It does not contort itself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold it. The self simply exists in its fullness, radiating its truth without apology or explanation. When you embody this level of being, you become what Jung called individuated. You are no longer living according to collective expectations or familial scripts. You are living from your own inner authority. You have done the work of separating what is truly yours from what was imposed upon you. You have claimed your life as your own, and this claiming is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of profound self-love. The feminine energy you now carry is different from the feminine energy you were taught. You were taught that femininity means accommodation, that being a woman means making yourself smaller so others can feel bigger, that your power lies in how well you serve. But this is not the sacred feminine. This is the distorted feminine. The feminine that has been shaped by patriarchal structures to serve the status quo. The true feminine is sovereign. She is the goddess who creates and destroys with equal grace. She is the moon that waxes and wanes according to her own cycle, not the demands of others. She is the ocean, deep and vast and utterly uncontrollable. She is fierce in her tenderness and tender in her fierceness. She holds life in one hand and death in the other, knowing that both are necessary for transformation. When you stop caring in the old way, you access this primal feminine power. You are no longer performing femininity. You are embodying it. And embodied femininity is magnetic in a way that performance never can be. It is authentic, it is rooted, it is whole, and it does not need external validation because it knows its own worth from the inside out. This is the vibrational shift that changes everything. When you stop negotiating your essence for acceptance, you become magnetic in a completely different way. You attract what is truly meant for you. You repel what is not. And you trust the process because you are no longer afraid of being alone. You have discovered that solitude, when chosen consciously, is not loneliness. It is sanctuary. It is the place where you meet yourself without distortion, without performance, without pretense. It is where you remember who you are. The legacy of this transformation is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not need witnesses or validation. You are not doing this for an audience. You are doing this because you finally understand that your life belongs to you, that your energy is sacred, that your peace is non-negotiable, and that the greatest gift you can give to the world is not your sacrifice, but your wholeness. When you break the pattern, you free not only yourself, but also the generations that follow. Your daughter, if you have one, will not inherit the same wound. Your niece, your goddaughter, the young women in your life will see a different model. They will see a woman who knows her worth, who honors her boundaries, who does not apologize for taking up space. And they will learn, without you having to teach them explicitly, that it is possible to be loving without being self-abandoning, to be strong without being hard, to be feminine without being subservient, This is the invisible inheritance, the energetic cord cut, the ancestral pattern released. You are doing the work that your grandmother could not do, that your mother did not know how to do. And by doing it, you are changing the entire lineage. The women who come after you will breathe easier. They will stand taller. They will know, in a way you had to discover for yourself, that they are sovereign from the very beginning. So when you stop caring about what was never yours to hold, what remains? What fills the space that was once occupied by obligation, by guilt, by the relentless need to be everything to everyone? The answer is simple, though not always easy. What remains is you, the essential self, the true queen. Not the one who wears the crown for show, but the one who reigns over her own inner kingdom with wisdom, with compassion, with an unshakable knowing that she is enough, exactly as she is. You are not less for having boundaries. You are more. You are not selfish for honoring your needs. You are self-aware. You are not cold for refusing to participate in dynamics that drain you. You are discerning. And discernment, in a world that thrives on the depletion of women, is a revolutionary act. This is the final stage of awakening. Not the dramatic enlightenment of myth, but the quiet settledness of a woman who has come home to herself, who has walked through the fire of transformation and emerged with her essence intact, who has faced the judgment of others and chosen her own approval instead, who has released the need to be seen, understood, or validated by anyone other than herself. And in that release, she finds freedom. The kind of freedom that does not need to prove itself, that does not need to perform, that simply exists in the fullness of its own being. She is a queen who has stopped caring about the opinions of those who never truly saw her. And in that not caring, she has found the deepest care of all, the care for her own soul, the reverence for her own life. The love that begins and ends with the self, and from there radiates outward without depletion, without demand, without end. If this resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in these words, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Let this be a space where you return to remember who you are, where you find companionship in the journey of reclaiming your sovereignty. Leave a comment below and share what part of this awakening you are moving through. Your voice matters. Your story is part of the greater tapestry of women stepping into their true power. And together, in this quiet revolution of self-reclamation, we are rewriting what it means to be a woman who has finally, beautifully, stopped caring about anything that was never truly hers to begin with.